Immunization rates for school kids in Colorado have been consistently low compared to other states for years. The CDC reports Colorado is 49th in the nation when it comes to vaccinating kindergartners. Part of the reason, more parents are exercising their state right to exempt children due to personal, medical, or religious reasons. Colorado currently follows national guidelines that includes the objective of having 95% of all kindergartners fully immunized by 2020. But right now the state falls well short. Lawmakers moving to increase the rates. In tonight's 360, we are taking a look at statistics and reasoning used by the state to push for this change. First, some background information for you. Immunizations have not always been closely tracked in Colorado. A bill signed into law in 2014 by Governor Hickenlooper began to change the process. It required the State Board of Health to enact rules that require schools and most child care centers to report immunization information, including exemption rates, and it has to be shared publicly. The law also required state health to provide evidence-based resources, research, and information to families to help them make educated decisions regarding vaccinations. This 2014 law came about in part due to a whooping cough outbreak in Colorado and the state determining unvaccinated children were 20 to 30% more likely to get and then spread that disease. Here's a look at why state and national health leaders and lawmakers say they are pushing to raise vaccination rates. State doctors say lack of immunization leaves school kids vulnerable to outbreaks of things like whooping cough, measles, chickenpox, and other preventable diseases. They cite that outbreak of whooping cough in Colorado between 2012 and 2014, which had the highest number of cases reported since the 1950s. In just the year 2014, there were 1,300 cases. Our state has also seen multiple cases of measles recently as part of an outbreak that's now affecting 22 states. The Centers for Disease Control also cites a lack of major outbreaks in certain diseases as a scientifically backed reason to require and encourage vaccinations for all school-aged children. For example, in 1921, more than 15,000 Americans died from diphtheria. That's a bacterial infection that leads to breathing trouble, heart failure, paralysis, and in many cases death. But after that outbreak, since the wide use of the DTaP vaccine or similar variations, there have been just 2 cases reported in 2 decades. In 1964 and 1965, there was an epidemic of rubella or German measles. It infected more than 12 million Americans. 2,000 babies died and 11,000 miscarriages. Again, the CDC cites the widespread use of the MMR vaccine, which became available in the 70s, as a reason for a similar outbreak not happening after. Since that vaccination was put into circulation, the CDC says there have just been 15 cases of German measles reported since 2012. Now here's a look at the rates that have been reported and tracked by the state of Colorado starting in the 2013-2014 school year. The Department of Health and Environment reports that there were nearly 64% of kindergartners up to date with all required vaccines. There was an exemption rate of 4.6%, and that includes students who had been opted out of all or just some vaccinations, a majority for personal reasons. Numbers went up for the following school year, 2014 to 2015. The state reporting more than 73% up to date with all required vaccines. Exemption rates were also up that year at 5.4%. Now let's take a look at the most recent school year, 2015 to 2016. There was another slight uptick in vaccination rates going from that 73.4 to nearly 75%, and the exemption rate also went back down slightly from that high of 5.4% to 4.3. Just to clarify for you, these numbers do not add up to 100% of all Colorado school kids. That's because there is a margin of about 20% of students considered non-compliant who were either in the process of vaccinations, they did not have all required vaccinations, or had not yet claimed any exemptions. A few important facts to add for you. Not all parents are opposed to greater immunization restrictions solely due to the vaccines themselves and the debated health effects versus benefits. Many see this as a parental rights issue, and they're opposed to the state making any of their medical decisions. It's also important to note that the 2014 law passed in Colorado, as well as the current bill being considered, do not require parents to vaccinate their kids. The current legislation could make it more difficult for parents to exempt their kids by requiring more steps, effort, and formality. It's still being considered with just over a week left in this legislative session. We'll continue tracking this one for you. And we would love to hear your feedback on this story or the pending legislation. We're also always happy to hear your ideas for any other stories or issues you'd like us to give the 360 treatment. Email us anytime, 360@KOAA.com.